Welcome to the Produce Moms Podcast, where we believe there is a produce mom in all of us. I'm Lori Taylor, founder and CEO of the Produce Moms. For 10 years, I sold fresh produce to over 300 grocery stores in the U.S. And today, my team and I are fully focused on inspiring people to eat more fruits and vegetables. This show is just one of the ways that we hope to inspire you and your family to eat more produce and live a better life. If you like what you're hearing on the podcast, join our community of almost 40,000 in all 50 states and over 30 countries by visiting theproducemoms.com/subscribe. And be sure to subscribe and leave us a review on iTunes. Thanks for being here. Enjoy today's show. Welcome back, everyone. Today is a wonderful edition of the Produce Moms Podcast. We are welcoming Toby Amidor to the podcast today. Toby is very well recognized throughout the food and beverage industry and on social media. More than likely, those of you that keep a close pulse and watchful eye on all things nutrition, you know this woman. She is a best-selling author. She is a registered dietitian. She's a mother of 3. We're so just overjoyed to welcome Toby to the podcast today. Toby, thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Yes. This is going to be a really good discussion. So when we get someone like you that has such knowledge on really the whole fruit and vegetable industry, nutrition as a whole, all the different disciplines that you've studied, publications that you've made, it's really hard to say, what are we going to talk about in a 20-minute conversation with a woman like Toby? So
pick my brain.
All right. So let's start with your books, because it's not easy to be a best-selling author. It's not easy to be an author. It's certainly not easy to be a best-selling author. And you've written 4 books, all of which have been extremely successful. The Greek Yogurt Kitchen is certainly among my favorites. Right now, I'm absolutely loving your 5-ingredient healthy cookbook.
Oh, thank you.
Yes. And so let's talk about your favorite and all the books that you've written.
Well, something, each one is like a certain place in my heart because it represents like a different time in my life. And I actually have 2 more coming out, this year. So, but the first one I ever wrote in 2014 was the Greek Yogurt Kitchen, which I loved because the first time I ever gave birth to my son, he's my oldest. My mom actually walked in with like a Trader Joe bag, and in it was like Greek yogurt. The first time I ever tasted Greek yogurt. So that was like around 2002. And I was like so in love, but at that point, they only had like full fat with the like honey on the side. That's all there was available. So it was amazing to me, like 13 years after that I was writing a cookbook on the versatility, since the whole market exploded within that time.
Very much. Yes. And I guess probably asking an author to name their favorite book is like asking you to name your favorite kid. It's probably almost impossible.
Yes. It's like 4 favorite kids and I got 2 more coming out. So you can't do that.
Yeah. No, that's great. So let's talk about actually that Greek yogurt book. So an entire book dedicated to Greek yogurt. Educate us a little bit more on this powerful ingredient and what inspired you to do an entire cookbook on this ingredient.
Well, there's so much you can do. A lot of people oftentimes buy Greek yogurt or yogurt in general, but Greek specifically because it's strained, so it has twice the amount of protein compared to traditional yogurt, though I love them both. But because Greek yogurt was so beloved, I just thought it was such a nice way to showcase how you can utilize, especially with all the food waste going on, some of the extras that people have in their fridge and what you can do with them. Plus, it's with healthy eating, there's so many different ways you can utilize it to help flavor the dish, make it creamier, and also replace some of the higher fat, especially artery-clogging saturated fat that we found in baked goods or stuff like that. So I really showcased. I have about 133 recipes here utilizing Greek yogurt.
Wow. Yeah. No, I mean, it's a fantastic book. So we'll talk more in depth about your other cookbooks, but let's go ahead and share the titles and the topics with our listeners.
Sure. So my second cookbook, and it's still actually a bestseller on Amazon. Probably my bestseller of all of them is the Healthy Meal Prep Cookbook. And that one is basically easy and wholesome meals to cook, prep, grab, and go. So that was when meal prep was becoming really popular. I released that one. But, meal prep is really popular on Instagram. You see people doing like a bajillion dishes, and you really don't have to do it so crazy. And this book really showcases just your basic, ins and outs on how to create a nice, healthy meal box and do so for the whole week. Again, I have in this one, I think I have like close to 150 recipes where you can meal prep. And it's funny because a lot of people are like, wait, you need a meal, you need a recipe for like 10 people, and you don't. In order to meal prep, you can use the recipe for 4 or 6, and you can change them around or reuse some of the ingredients to make another recipe. And so I showcase that throughout that book.
Right. That's great. And then obviously the 5-ingredient healthy cookbook.
Mm-hmm. And that one is really fun. And that one actually made the Wall Street Journal bestseller list. And it's funny because I put really simplistic recipes, like really the bare bones yet delicious of like favorite recipes that utilize 5 ingredients. Of course, like anything, if you ever like start developing recipe and they're like, you only have 5 ingredients. And I'm like, wait, salt doesn't count and pepper doesn't count. So there's 7 ingredients. I call them pantry ingredients that don't count. And I actually highlight them so in the recipes. Sometimes I use 1 or 2 or 3 of them, but it's like cooking spray, salt, pepper, honey, which everybody has in their pantry, garlic, and olive oil, and fresh lemons, just as a must in every kitchen. Yep. So, besides those 7, those are my pantries. Every recipe has 5 ingredients, some even less. And so it's really fun. I love even the cover shot of the Spanish chicken. I showcase how you can do it really simplistic, and then you can actually add on to it. And under the Toby's tips, a lot of times I'll say, wait, if you want to add X, Y, and Z, you can do so if you have the time or inclination to like dress it up even more than the 5 ingredients.
Right. And, I think that's one thing too, Toby, that draws me into your work. You really have a way of making nutrition and meal prep, some of these topics that frankly, there's like an information overload and they feel very arduous and out of reach. You have a way of making them very relatable, easy to execute. So let's talk a little bit more about the meal prep. You obviously have the book for beginners. What is it? Is that book really the best place to start? I guess it probably is, but share a few tips, like for folks that are like, man, I'm intrigued with meal prep, but I've never really done it. Share a few beginner tips.
So what happened was when I wrote the Healthy Meal Prep Cookbook, a lot of people came and were like, wait, we still need the 100 on this. Mm-hmm. So, the publisher and I decided let's do a smart meal prep and really almost like a prequel, like let's get it started. So I really gave like a lot of do's and don'ts, a lot of, I gave my 5 steps for meal prep success. So I really went through in the 5 steps, like choose when you're going to meal prep. So for example, you don't have to meal prep during one day only, because some people get scared off with that. Can you imagine saying, to someone who's new in cooking, okay, you'd have to spend all day Sunday cooking 7 recipes and they hate even cooking 2. It's right. Exactly. Yeah. You're like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to do it. So here I kind of start even with my meal plans. I have like 7 meal plans. The first one has 3 recipes. That's it. Mm-hmm. Like you don't have to meal prep for, every single meal. So I kind of explain all that. When do you meal prep? You could do it twice a week if that works better for you. So you don't you can only do 3 recipes if that works for you. So I kind of really build you up throughout the book. And that's even like step 2, decide which meals to prep. Listen, if you like to have breakfast at home every day and you want to do a dozen muffins and then have that with a glass of milk or some yogurt or fruit, then you can do that. And I have a recipe for you, and that takes all of 30 minutes to meal prep. Right. And you have 12 muffins, and you can have them as a snack as well. So I kind of really simplify it in that respect. And then I talk about like some tips and tricks in step 3, like how do you go food shopping, when you go food shopping, how do you shop the store? Because I actually, when I test recipes, I for every cookbook, because I do a lot of cookbooks, so I don't cook 1 or 2 recipes. I actually meal prep for myself or test recipes, a minimum of 10 recipes. So when I go, I actually, and that's for 10, so I can really simplify it for 3. I actually go the flow of my store. So I actually have fruits listed on a piece of paper. I write it. I don't like the digital thing. Of fruits, the vegetables, the dairy aisle, the pantry aisle. And so I break everything down. So whether you do that for 3 recipes, 10 recipes, or 15, which you shouldn't be cooking 15 recipes. I'm just crazy because I do my cookbooks. But, there's a way to get at it that you're not running like a crazy person between aisles, that you're most efficient with your time, and that you can really get in and out of a store.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And that right there is the strategy that Instacart and Shipt and all of these shopper concierge programs, the virtual shoppers that we get, their whole training is on how quickly you can get through the store. It's not so much on, product selection as it is just navigating and the logistics of getting in and out as quick as you can. So I love that you share that and organize almost like your game plan for the grocery store in a very efficient way. And very powerful. So, since we're on the topic of meal prep, let's talk a little bit about fruits and vegetables. Which fruits and vegetables have you found to be the easiest to incorporate into meal prep?
So first of all, since you guys, I know you guys are the produce moms, but when you guys emailed me, I was so excited because I like all produce.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, it's like asking you, what's your favorite fruit or vegetable?
Right.
But I do, something I incorporate a lot of different ones. The fruits, I'm like crazy for, my boyfriend makes fun of me at this point because I'm so crazy for grapes at this point in time. But a lot of times, like I'll swap out a lot of times, tomatoes, which I'm crazy about, for strawberries, which you could do a nice little, switcheroo. I have cut up pineapple in my fridge because my girls are just crazy about pineapple. I've been incorporating mango into smoothies lately. And all these, like when I do a mango, you can actually meal prep a smoothie pack when you just, not the liquid, but you could put all your ingredients in a resealable baggie in the fridge for a single smoothie.
Right.
And like I'll do a mango in there, sometimes, depending on what I'm hungry, mango and strawberry, let's say, for example. So those are some of my favorites. And in terms of for meal prep, you just have to be careful because if you really like the fresh produce in there, then you might want to meal prep twice a week because sometimes they get a little nappy.
Yeah, sure.
But that's where canned foods comes in nicely too. So sometimes, I have a ton of canned fruits and vegetables too. If it's fruit, I'll have it in like a extra light syrup or packed in water. But those are my saviors and they're in my pantry. So anytime I want produce, because as you probably very well know, most Americans don't get enough, even close to the recommended fruits and vegetables. Yeah. So any form, frozen, canned.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Dried,
apples over Apple Jacks. We always say that applesauce over Apple Jacks. That. Just definitely, we want to see folks choosing more fruits and vegetables. And heck, right here in my own home, yes, I've got a freezer full of frozen fruits and vegetables. I've got canned fruits and vegetables, to your point, in the pantry. We certainly, I'm very mindful and, I have a preference, obviously, for fresh form, but definitely all forms definitely matter and they definitely count. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Yep. And all my books use all forms. So, but I'll always if you do, I always recommend low sodium varieties, of course, and even the beans to rinse out. Study shows if you can't find the low sodium beans and you just have regular, which is fine, you can rinse it and it'll reduce the sodium by up to 40%.
Good, because that's what I do. I have a hard time finding the low sodium beans, to be honest with you. And
no, sometimes I do too, or I don't want to pay the money. Right. So why not just rinse it?
Yeah, and that's exactly what I do. Just run it right, dump the can into your colander and rinse them off real good. It's very easy. Okay, so, let's talk a little bit about, you mentioned this idea of doing the mango smoothies and other, pre-made smoothies. Any other hacks or tips that you've learned in your storied career that would be, real actionable items for folks that want to eat more fruits and vegetables?
I was going to give you my grain one. I'll get back to the fruits and vegetables. But one thing I've learned is that almost every grain can go in your rice cooker.
Ah,
I have to say that is a big tip.
yeah, I had no idea. Okay.
Yeah, like you can put so many different grains.
Good.
I cook my quinoa in my rice cooker, and I cook it with like low sodium chicken or vegetable or beef broth. You could do all that. So that's one of my like big hacks. And a lot of times, like one of my favorite salads is my family's from Israel, so we have like a chop salad. So one of my like must have is a chopper. Like I just have this simple chopper in my kitchen.
Yeah.
Like yes, I can chop, but I really like them finely diced for my salad with like a little lemon juice and olive oil. And so I'll just take tomato, cucumber. I can give you the recipe. I have variations of this. That's a little secret. I have variations of my chopped salad. Like sometimes it's with chickpeas, sometimes it's with olives. It depends on each of my cookbooks. I try to do that.
Yeah. And which fresh herbs do you use?
I like, so I didn't use the fresh herbs usually, but I do at home. Fresh parsley works beauously in it.
I mean, you mentioned Israeli salad. I'm like, there's got to be either fresh parsley or mint in that.
Yeah. I do the parsley, but in the 5 ingredient I was trying to cut down, and I really try to simplify. But yeah, I will put parsley in it, and lemon juice, olive oil, salt, pepper. Like so simple, and it's so many different colors. Like cucumbers, the red tomatoes. I'll put like a yellow bell pepper for my kids because they love it too. We'll have it with some like hummus. Sorry, I'm Israeli, so we have the hummus.
Yeah, it's that's a great, that Israeli style salad is a great salad to do for meal prep or batch cooking. And then you just keep it in your refrigerator. I mean, man, I'll put it on top of almost anything, or like a bed of, lay out a bed of greens and then put your Israeli salad on the top. And you've got this, it's like a whole new salad, really, even though it's just so simple. I opened up a bag of spinach and I put this on top, So.
Yep. And no, that's a great idea. And then on top of that, what I sometimes do is I won't dress it until it's ready I'm ready to actually serve it. Cause sometimes it'll keep a touch longer if you don't dress it, like, with the olive oil and whatnot.
Right. Wow, you have a lot of great knowledge and insights. So I'd like to talk a little bit, knowing how much you've undoubtedly spent researching dairy and the development that you put into an entire cookbook with Greek yogurt. I'd like to get your thoughts on the rise of plant-based milks and dairy substitutes. They're really, disrupting, truthfully, a whole category. They're getting a lot of folks in produce to take notice, as you have, almond milk, you have pea milk, you have oat milk. There's so many now. So from a nutritional standpoint, are these equivalent to dairy products?
So in terms, I'm just looking at the nutrient content, and you mentioned oat milk. That was like all the rage.
Sure.
It's at Expo West. I was just there. It's all the rage right now, and many products with it, and it's very tasty. But it from a nutritional standpoint, milk and dairy have 9 essential nutrients, 3 which are nutrients of concern. And it just, from a nutritional perspective, the only one that the dietary guidelines recognizes is soy, to be close to dairy milk, cow's milk. But the rest, I always recommend you can enjoy it however you like, but you still will need 3 servings of dairy to include in your diet in addition to them, because they just don't add up in terms of the protein and other nutrient and the nutrient profile in them. So that's kind of my answer. So if you just love, oat milk in your smoothie, that's great. Just make sure you're getting 3 servings of either cow's milk or from soy every day.
And hey, check out the Greek yogurt cookbook for inspiration on how to consume more dairy products. So,
absolutely.
So among your many accolades and, the allure, when I was evaluating your work and thinking, man, I want to share her story on our podcast. Toby, you are the nutrition expert for the Food Network. You got to tell me a little bit more about what this entails. You mentioned earlier in today's show how, your passion with Greek yogurt kind of started right after you became a mom. And I must say that I have a similar story with the Food Network. I really developed a love for food and cooking and this fangirl obsession with all things Food Network, because when I was on my maternity leave with my oldest son, that's what we did. I like held him and fed him, and we watched Food Network. It was bliss. Yeah. So admittedly, this part of your career has me fascinated, and I want to learn a little bit more about what you do there. Do you help create the recipes, nutritional analysis for the website, something else? Please share what you can.
Sure. So I've been the nutrition there with, I call her my work husband, with Dana Angelo White. We've been contributing founders to their Healthy Eats blog. And we've been nutrition experts there, the two of us, for 10 and a half years. August will be 11 years. And so from there, we do a lot of nutrition analysis. If you go to the Healthy Eats blog, you'll see a ton of our work, because I think we have thousands of articles over the past 11 years that have been published over there. We contribute to the foodnetwork.com as well. You might see a lot of slideshows that we contributed, but we definitely help them in all respects in terms of nutrition and any questions that come up in that respect.
Yeah, no, that's great. So one thing that you're probably noticing as you create content for Food Network, Toby Amidor Nutrition, your cookbooks, there is certainly a diet trend overload right now. I mean, there is keto, plant-based, paleo, Whole30, gluten-free, intermittent fasting. I mean, we could go on and on and on about things that people are saying, oh, you got to do this. So what's your advice to our listeners today that are wanting to improve their life, but they're feeling overwhelmed? They don't know where to start.
It's funny because I'm actually giving that exact talk a lot to dietetic meetings throughout the country in the spring. This spring to about 6 or 7 meetings. Yeah, and that's exactly what I'm talking about, all the different diets. I've written a tremendous amount on all of them. I've actually written for shape.com, like why this dietitian is against the keto diet. I've written a lot of content on it. I'm very fluent actually on that, but it's really I actually got an Insta message from my son, and he pinpointed and I think it was an NFL, because he likes football player, that basically was like, I love intermittent fasting the keto way. Like he was doing both together. Mm-hmm. Like, see, it's not bad. And I'm like, this is my son who's, almost 17, and he's still looking on these stars who are doing it. And we're seeing many more of these sorts of personalities that are looked up upon, and they're really disseminating incorrect information. And to me, that's an abuse almost of their stance in society, and they really shouldn't be doing that. And so a lot of these diets, some are fine. Something like an intermittent fasting, if you really understand the concept, I'm not for it, but they don't limit foods, and it's just basically making sure you're not eating like some people late night snackers, and it kind of stops you from doing that. But some of them can be potentially dangerous, especially if you have disease states or on certain medications. So if you really don't understand and maybe want to go into one of these or explore it, I really would recommend going to see a registered dietitian nutritionist who maybe can hold your hand through the process and kind of explain to you what's going on, even metabolically, because a lot of people don't really understand what they're actually doing when they start it.
Right.
So that's my kind of short answer.
No, it's a powerful answer. Thanks for sharing that. And it's an important topic of discussion, because I think a lot of folks are feeling a little overwhelmed about it and just frankly don't know where to start. And if anyone ever inquires with us, I don't have the education and the credentials that you have in terms of studying nutrition and becoming a registered dietitian. I am not a dietitian. I am someone who sold fresh produce for over 10 years to grocery stores and has a deep passion for all things fruits and vegetables. So my answer is always eat more fruits and vegetables.
And I back that up 1,000%.
There we go. All right. Well, thank you. So, let's, I think you kind of just answered my next question. I really wanted to get, affirmation from you that just fruits and vegetables are fundamental in everyone's quest for nutrition. And so how important is our fruits and vegetables and fresh produce in what you do at Toby Amidor Nutrition?
So for me, I'm all about, like, it's definitely of utmost importance. Like I mentioned before, about 90% of Americans don't eat enough vegetables, and about 85% don't get the recommended amount of fruit. For me, I'm something called pro-choice. So I really, I'm okay with whatever form you choose your produce. So if you choose organic, conventional, ugly, local, whatever it is, just get it, because there are more benefits of getting any of these forms in terms of health benefits, prevention of disease. So, go choose your favorites, go to the farmer's market and go see what's in season, go have fun with it. And most of all, like yesterday I was at the store and I have my 11-year-old, she helps me test recipes. I'm testing my 6th cookbook right now. And I've taught her through time how to choose the produce. And at this point, I was like, go choose me a red, a green, a yellow pepper, and I trust you. And one of the yellow peppers was a little discolored, and it turned out it was, I did buy it. I didn't check it only when we got home. And I then explained to her and I opened it up. I said, see, this is what happens when it's discolored, but you can still remove this part section and still eat it. But just that education component too, to children is very important to me.
Yeah, it is. And, you mentioned the consumption stats with adults and with children. Sadly, it's even worse than that. I mean, it's closer to that. 90% over 90% of children don't get the recommended amount of vegetables on a daily basis. It's slightly better with fruit, just, the high 80s, but goodness, we've got a lot of work to do in inspiring, people of all ages to eat more fruits and vegetables, but specifically children. And, the work you do is a huge part of the solution. I love what you just said about, being pro-choice in terms of where, how people's food is farmed. We're the exact same way. I mean, we have to embrace the concept and the platform that all produce is good for you. And what a wonderful thing that we live in such a food secure nation where we can actually choose how it's farmed and buy what's right for us and our families. So really enjoyed today's conversation, Toby. I can't thank you enough for what you do. The method in which you share your knowledge with us all, it's very relatable, very action oriented, which I appreciate. And I want to make sure that we share with folks where they can go to learn more about your work. And I also want to tell all of our listeners today that we're actually going to be hosting on Instagram a giveaway of one of Toby's cookbooks. So right now there are 4 that are published. She's got a couple more she's working on, as she said. And head over to our Instagram page. It'll be in the stories and we'll post it. You can also, Toby will be cross-promoting on hers, and we'll be giving away a cookbook to one of our fans and followers on Instagram, the cookbook of your choice from Toby's lineup. And this has been a wonderful show. Toby, please tell our listeners where they can go to learn more about your work and sign us off. Any closing remarks? Yeah, thanks.
Thank you so much for having me. And you can go to Toby Amidor Nutrition, Toby with a Y, amidornutrition.com to get more information. And of course, Amazon has all my books. You just type in my name, Toby Amidor, and they'll all pop up.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Produce Moms Podcast. If you or someone you know would like to be a featured guest, just send an email to Lori@theproducemoms.com. We know there is a produce mom in you because there's a produce mom in all of us. Join our community on Facebook and all social platforms. Help us change the way America eats. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.